Hey guys, welcome to MALICK Lifestyle. If you're new to the channel, remember to subscribe, like and share, and turn on the notification bell so you can be notified when we put out a new video. Today we will be talking about Jamaica's 7 national heroes, and I will share a brief history of the national heroes and a bit of what they brought to the plate for our island. Hope you guys enjoy it. Number 1. Paul Bogle. He was born in Jamaica in 1822 in Street Thomas. He was a Jamaican Baptist deacon and activist. He is a national hero of Jamaica. He was a leader of the 1,865 Morant Bay protesters, who marched for justice and fair treatment for all the people in Jamaica. After leading the Morant Bay Rebellion, Bogle had become a friend of wealthy landowner and fellow Baptist George William Gordon, a biracial man who served in the assembly as one of 2 representatives from St. Thomas in the East Parish. Gordon was instrumental in Bogle being appointed deacon of Stony Gut Baptist Church in 1864. Conditions were hard for black peasants due to social discrimination, flooding and crop failure, and epidemics. The required payment of poll taxes prevented most of them from voting. In August 1865, Gordon criticized the British governor, Edward John Eyre, for sanctioning everything done by the higher class to the oppression of the Negroes. Bogle concentrated on improving the conditions of the poor as awareness of social injustices and people's grievances grew. Bogle led a group of small farmers 45 miles to the capital, Spanish Town, hoping to meet with Governor Eyre to discuss their issues, but they were denied an audience. The people of Stony Gut lost confidence and trust in the governorship, and Bogle's supporters grew in number in the parish. After leading the Morant Bay Rebellion, Bogle was captured by government troops, tried and convicted by British authorities under martial law, and hanged on October 24, 1865, in the Morant Bay Courthouse. Number 2. Samuel Sharpe was an enslaved person who fought for freedom by organizing a general strike in Jamaica. He was born in Jamaica in 1801 and brought up in Montego Bay. He was a literate and well-respected deacon who was in charge of a missionary chapel in Montego Bay. He learned to read and write and became known as an inspirational Baptist preacher who amazed people with the power of his sermons. He traveled widely throughout his parish speaking about the injustices of slavery and pointing out that the Bible said no man can serve 2 masters. White people, he said, had no more right to hold black people in slavery than if it were the other way around. He keenly followed the developments of the abolition movement in England by reading local and foreign papers. When he was 31 years old, Sharpe organized a rebellion in the mistaken belief that freedom had already been granted by the British Parliament. The rebellion, which started in December 1831, was timed to have maximum impact, as Sharpe knew that if the right cane was not cut it would be ruined. Sharpe suggested that the enslaved people did not go back to work after their 3-day Christmas holiday. He hoped the owners would pay the slaves to cut the cane, so that it would not spoil. Sharpe told his followers that they should only fight physically for their freedom if the planters did not accede to their demands. The uprising lasted 10 days and spread throughout the entire island, mobilizing as many as 60,000 of Jamaica's 300,000 enslaved population. Sam Sharpe was captured and executed in Market Square, Montego Bay on May 23, 1832. Just before his death, he had said to a visitor, "I would rather die upon yonder gallows than live in slavery." Sharpe's owners were paid £16 in compensation for their loss of property. Number 3. Nanny of the Maroons was an 18th century leader of the Jamaican Maroons. She led a community of formerly enslaved Africans called the Windward Maroons in the early 18th century. Under the leadership of Nanny, the Windward Maroons fought a guerrilla war over many years against British authorities in the colony of Jamaica in what became known as the First Maroon. On a $500 banknote, Aka and Nanny. Much of what is known about her comes from oral history, as little textual evidence exists. According to Maroon legend, Queen Nanny was born in what is today Ghana of the Akans people. According to the oral tradition, and at least one documentary source, she was never enslaved, although widely assumed that she arrived in Jamaica as a slave. How she arrived in Jamaica is not certain. During the years of warfare, the British suffered significant losses in their encounters with the Windward Maroons of eastern Jamaica. Maroons attributed their success against the British to the successful use of supernatural powers by Nanny, but historians argue that the Maroon mastery of guerrilla warfare played a significant role in their success. Having failed to defeat them on the battlefield, the British sued for peace, signing a treaty with them on April 20, 1740. The treaty stopped the hostilities, provided for state-sanctioned freedom for the Maroons, and granted 500 acres of land to Nanny and her followers. The village built on the land grant still stands, and today is called Moortown. It is also known as the New Nanny Town. Modern members of the Moortown celebrate April 20th, 1740, as a holiday. In 1975, the government of Jamaica declared Nanny as their only female national hero, celebrating her success as a leader, military tactician, and strategist. Her image is also on the Jamaican $500 note, which is called a nanny in Jamaican. However, it is unlikely that Cuffee killed the nanny who ran Nanny Town, since there is evidence Moortown was granted to her people under her leadership in 1740. Some claim that Queen Nanny lived to be an old woman, dying of natural causes in the 1760s. The exact date of her death remains a mystery. Number 4. Marcus Mosai Garvey was born August 17, 1887. He was a Jamaican political activist, publisher, journalist, entrepreneur, and orator. He was the founder and first President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, UNIA ACL, commonly known as UNIA, through which he declared himself Provisional President of Africa. Ideologically a black nationalist and Pan-Africanist, his ideas came to be known as Garveyism. Malchus Garvey Sarah and Richards Garvey was born to a moderately prosperous Afro-Jamaican family in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica, and apprenticed into the print trade as a teenager. Working in Kingston, he became involved in trade unionism before living briefly in Costa Rica, Panama, and England. Returning to Jamaica, he founded UNIA in 1914. In 1916, he moved to the United States and established a UNIA branch in New York City's Harlem district, emphasizing unity between Africans and the African diaspora. He campaigned for an end to European colonial rule across Africa and the political unification of the continent. He envisioned a unified Africa as a one-party state, governed by himself, that would enact laws to ensure black racial purity. Although he never visited the continent, he was committed to the Back to Africa movement, arguing that some people of African descent should migrate there. Garveyist ideas became increasingly popular, and UNIA grew in membership. However, his black separatist views, and his relations with white racists such as the Ku Klux Klan KKK, to advance their shared interest in racial separatism, divided Garvey from other prominent African-American civil rights activists, such as W.E.B. Du Bois, who promoted racial integration. Committed to the belief that black people needed to secure financial independence from white-dominant society, Garvey launched various businesses in the U.S., including the Negro Factories Corporation and Negro World newspaper. In 1919, he became president of the Black Star Line Shipping and Passenger Company, designed to forge a link between North America and Africa and facilitate African-American migration to Liberia. In 1923, Garvey was convicted of mail fraud for selling the company's stock and imprisoned in the United States Penitentiary, Atlanta, for nearly 2 years. Many commentators have argued that the trial was politically motivated. Garvey blamed Jewish people, claiming that they were prejudiced against him because of his links to the KKK. Deported to Jamaica in 1927, where he settled in Kingston with his wife Amy Jacques, Garvey continued his activism and established the People's Political Party in 1929, briefly serving as a city councilor. With UNIA in increasing financial difficulty, in 1935 he relocated to London, where his anti-socialist stance distanced him from many of the city's black activists. He died there in 1940, although in 1964 his body was returned to Jamaica for reburial in Kingston's National Heroes Park. Garvey was a controversial figure. Some in the African diasporic community regarded him as a pretentious demagogue and were highly critical of his collaboration with white supremacists, his violent rhetoric, and his prejudice against mixed-race people and Jews. He nevertheless received praise for encouraging a sense of pride and self-worth among Africans and the African diaspora amid widespread poverty, discrimination, and colonialism. In Jamaica, he is widely regarded as a national hero. His ideas exerted a considerable influence on such movements as Rastafari, the Nation of Islam, and the Black Power movement. Number 5. Norman Washington Manley was born at Roxborough, Manchester, on July 4, 1893. He was a brilliant scholar and athlete, soldier, First World War, and lawyer. He identified himself with the cause of the workers at the time of the labor troubles of 1938 and donated time and advocacy to the cause. In September 1938, Manley founded the People's National Party (PNP) and was elected its president annually until his retirement in 1969. 31 years later, Manley, and the PMP supported the trade union movement, then led by Alexander Bustamante, while leading the demand for universal adult suffrage. When suffrage came, Manley had to wait 10 years and 2 terms before his party was elected to office. He was a strong advocate of the Federation of the West Indies, established in 1958. But when Sir Alexander Bustamante declared that the opposition Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, would take Jamaica out of the Federation, Washington Manley, already renowned for his integrity and commitment to democracy, called a referendum, unprecedented in Jamaica, to let the people decide. The vote was decisively against Jamaica's continued membership of the Federation. Washington Manley, after arranging Jamaica's orderly withdrawal from the Union, set up a joint committee to decide on a constitution for separate independence for Jamaica. He himself chaired the committee with great distinction, and then led the team that negotiated the island's independence from Britain. The issue settled, Manley again went to the people. He lost the ensuing election to the JLP and gave his last years of service as leader of the opposition, establishing definitively the role of the parliamentary opposition in a developing nation. In his last public address to an annual conference of the PMP, he said, "I say that the mission of my generation was to win self-government for Jamaica, to win political power, which is the final power for the black masses of my country from which I sprang. I am proud to stand here today and say to you who fought that fight with me, say it with gladness and pride, mission accomplished for my generation." And what is the mission of this generation? It is reconstructing the social and economic society and life of Jamaica. Norman Manley died on September 2, 1969. On October 18, 1969, as per Government Notice 706 Jamaica Gazette, Manley was conferred with the Order of National Hero along with his cousin Alexander Bustamante. Number 6. Sir William Alexander Clark Bustamante was born February 24, 1884. He was a Jamaican politician and labor leader who, in 1962, became the first Prime Minister of Jamaica. He became a leader in activism against colonial rule. He gained recognition by writing frequent letters on the issues to the Daily Gleaner newspaper. In 1937, he was elected as treasurer of the